Happy Sunday, and welcome back to another mind-expanding episode of the Viking Psychology, brought to you by yours truly. Today we're going to have a roundtable discussion on the controversial documentary, Canada is Dying. I have asked Rob and Eric to join me again for this chat, so get ready for an enlightening conversation. Hey boys, how we just jump right into it?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah? You all good?
Yep.
All right, cool. Oh, you know what? One thing first. Anybody listening who hasn't watched the documentary by Aaron Gunn, Canada's Dying, please pause the show right now and go and watch. All right. So we give them enough time. All right, guys.
All right.
First off, yeah, no spoilers. You guys all watched. You know what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And he did other documentaries too. We were talking offline. Vancouver's Dying, stuff like that. What did you guys think of? Like, what came to your mind when you were watching these documentaries?
Sad.
Just really,
I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
It's just, I hate seeing, you hate to see it, right? Because it's like you're home and you just see it fall into decay like that, right?
Well, it's not only
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's the anger that they see all these things happening and they're trying these stupid solutions that obviously are not working, but they keep pushing forward.
Yeah, agreed.
and it's one thing to like, because what bothers me is it's like, for the longest time, is usually when they try to implement an idea, they'll do it. They used to do it just on a very, very small scale. So you have your control group, right? So you say, I'm like, okay, this works here. Let's try, and then you slowly expand it. Like, okay, let's try something similar. I was like, oh, okay, and you slowly implement it over a series of years. So you work out all the kinks, and then you come out with a product or a plan that's actually better than what you originally had, right? But now it's just unilateral. We're just going to do this. And you're like, without any, and everyone points out, of course, that like, well, there's huge flaws and holes in this plan, and then they're like, oh, well, you don't care. You don't like helping people,
Yeah. And
right? And you're just like, that's.
And anybody
No,
that
Eric,
tries
that's
anything different, they get shit on.
Yeah, and that's wrong. And then you totally invalidate what, like, the people that actually want to help, and the idea of actually spending money to actually do that and help people. Because I'm a big proponent of. I'm like, okay, you can't just have, you can't just be like, oh, by the way, here's your free drugs. I'm like, okay, well, is there a support group? Is there doctors? Is there all this, right? And a lot of time is just, you have like a counselor and then drugs, but there's no community support. Really,
And
like
some of it,
rehab
they don't even have the counselor. Some of it is just they go to a doctor or a walk-in clinic and they get the prescription.
Yeah.
It's
almost,
there's no checks and balances at all.
There's none.
It's just, here you go, figure it out, and if they screw the system, there's no repercussions for that. None.
Yeah.
Because there's no repercussions for wasting money. That's the problem. That's another problem, right? We go back to the previous problem where people just said, it's like, well, if we build more homeless shelters, it'll solve the homeless problem. You're like, no, then all of a sudden ODs keep going up, right? Because they just end up going to these homeless shelters where no one can see them, and then no one can get better.
Yep.
They discuss that in the video too, where it's like the difference between the actual treatment centers and just like homeless hotels. Yeah, people OD most of the time in their living rooms, right? That's what they said, at least. So you just give them their own private living.
It's the same with any real mental health issue when it gets serious. Like they said, when is the worst time for somebody with PTSD? It's when they're alone, right? That's when they're most likely going to do something.
Yeah.
And it's the same as if you shuffle away the addicts and you give them their supply and you put them in a dark corner, well, they're going to use it.
Yeah.
And you feel good about yourself because you put them in that hole and they're out of sight, out of mind.
It's a safe supply too, so.
Yeah, well, you're just sweeping it under the rug. We're going to get into that. and that's what bothers me, because it's just how superficial it all is. It's not real. It's just, all it is just doing the minimum amount of work just to get moral brownie points. Yeah. Which really pisses me off because it's not genuine. It's not genuine help.
It's definitely not genuine. It can't be. Like, you can't honestly look yourself in the mirror as one of these people in charge and be like, I'm doing a good job. when you've got crime up 32%.
I've actually heard this. There's a difference between being nice and being kind. Being nice is just like surface level stuff. Like you say, oh, that's terrible. Being kind is actually doing something to help. And I think that's where a lot of people are going wrong. They're trying to be nice, and they're doing all this surface level stuff that makes them feel good, but they're not being kind and actually treating the problem.
Yeah. And I think that's also like just a problem with the product of like the social media age, right? Is we've all become so vain, right? And so obsessed with the quick, the illusion or image of doing good. I mean, like we've experienced similar situations like that with our previous jobs, right? Where we'll spend billions of dollars just to look good without actually doing good. Right? So,
and the thing that gets me and that I want you guys to talk on is everybody focuses on the mental health of the addict and the homeless person and what they're going through and how we need to kind of cater to their needs because it's a disease or it's a disorder, right? But nobody talks about the first responders. What about their mental health? Like, the paramedic that's on his 7th OD and he's lost 4 of them, right? Or the police officer who we harp on because they're finally so fed up with their job that they're pissed off. But nobody cares that, they've tried to put the same guy away, 13 times and he's let out before the guy's done the paperwork.
Yeah, and that's that niceness versus kindness. Like the niceness of the laws are not letting you actually treat the problem, which is that person's a menace to society.
I remember it was called something specific, that tactic that they're trying where they're like the niceness. I think it's called, what was it called? Harm reduction strategy. That's the one. That's the one I'm thinking. Where it's just like, it's all about harm reduction, but it actually causes more harm than it reduces, right? Because it doesn't go after the source of the problem.
Well, because it's not long-term. It's not long-term thinking.
It's definitely not. And it makes victims of all of us. Like, you know what? I feel for the guy who lost his job and now he's on the streets, but, he chose to go to the drug way. The mom who wants to take her kid to the park, she didn't choose that. And now she can't do that because there's needles all over it. Right?
Yeah.
And what about her mental health? What about the mental?
There's also a difference between like the people that are homeless due to lack of money and those that are like constantly criminals and all they do is commit crimes to fund their habits. Yeah. Like I feel for the people that are homeless because of their circumstances, you know what I mean? Like they lost their job and they couldn't keep up with their bills, whatever. But there's those other people that are constantly on the street funding their own habit through like destroying other people's property and jobs and stuff like that. Yeah. I don't feel for those people at all. It's so hard to.
Yeah, and that's a problem I find. Another problem. I mean, like I know we're talking about Canada, but we see a perfect example that we see is in the States where they decriminalized petty theft, right? So anything about and now you've just incentivized people, and then now it's just constant theft all the time now of the stupidest stuff like toothpaste, for Christ's sake, behind glass.
It's like I think it's anything below $1,000. They don't even arrest the person anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything $900 and below, they don't. Right? Yeah. But then again, you got to think of the people that need to do that. It's like right now, our society in the Western world is in such a decline that it's like the name of this episode. Like we need life support. Like Canada needs life support. It's true. We need we need our government to spend the money smarter. We don't need, millions of dollars going towards opioids that aren't fixing anything. They're just making the problem worse. Yeah. Like in the documentary, they talked about London, Ontario didn't have a fentanyl problem until the safe supply clinics opened up because they start them on the opioids and then they want more. Yeah. Like, that's what an addict wants. They just want more.
And I've also heard that they're now mixing the fentanyl with another drug, benzo something or other, right? So when you give, it's like you give them a specific drug to counteract the withdrawal symptoms of the fentanyl, but it doesn't counteract the withdrawal symptoms of this this other drug. So you get a double whammy of the double withdrawal, right? So no matter what you do, no matter how you treat each one, like this, it you're going to suffer from severe withdrawal symptoms and probably die, right? Or just relapse, which is right.
Yeah, no, but it's sad how what we're setting our country up. Like, I don't want to say the whole organization name because I don't know if I'm allowed to, but it's like the junior first aiders that are out there are getting taught how to use Narcan. Like, we're talking kids that are 12 years old are getting taught how to we're normalizing people that are having ODs. And we need we're teaching our kids that we're teaching our kids that it's okay. That you're going to see this, and this is how you help it. But that's where we're affecting the normal people. And I don't care if somebody gets mad at me for using the word normal. Mental health to be okay with this. It's not okay. It was never in history okay to be a dredge in society.
No,
normal people are addicted to hard drugs.
Yeah,
that's not a normal thing.
No. Well, you remember that people used to argue, I mean, that, alcohol's a drug and alcohol's okay. I'm like, yeah, but we've had thousands of years to figure that out, right? And it's only become socially acceptable because it's, one, very difficult to kill yourself with alcohol, for one. And usually you get sick
behind the wheel
beforehand. Well, it depends. But, and because as a society, we've kind of grown up around alcohol, right? And we know how to deal with it properly.
Yeah.
Right. But there's like, well, just because we're allowed to do alcohol, so we should be allowed to do hard drugs. I'm like, yeah, well, alcohol kind of messes you up for a little bit unless you just drink nothing but moonshine all night. Right. Like, one beer is not going to kill you, but like one hit of of meth, you're screwed for life. Hey, there's no, you can't conflate the two.
But the other side of it is, how many people do you see getting mugged or robbed or cars broken into because somebody wants to fund their alcohol habit?
Yeah, exactly.
That almost never happens. It's always due to the hard drugs where that crime comes into play. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's no conflating the two. I don't see a connection. You know what I mean? Like,
no. Well, I get where Eric's coming from. Like, that's what people use to justify, or they try to tell themselves, like, this. It's okay if these people do this because you don't mind going to the bar and having a couple beers, and you got drunk that one night and passed out, and somebody drew little flaccid things on your forehead.
Yeah.
But right. But in the same spot, like, it's a sad comparison in that we are trying to justify these people's behavior to make it normal for us. And you can tell it's affecting people because people look at that stabbing in Vancouver, the stabbing in front of that Starbucks. Not one person gave first aid, but 13 people videotaped it.
Well,
and dying.
People are discouraged from intervening, though.
They weren't discouraged from taking a video of it, and they were close enough that because I heard that excuse. Well, they didn't want the guy with the knife was still right there. That one kid was close enough that person could have attacked him too. They didn't care about that. They wanted to get that video. They wanted to watch that man bleed out.
Yeah, internet clout.
Post it.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of it.
And we're also
the other thing is you get more trouble for trying to stop something like that than you do for actually doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You de-incentivize doing the right thing.
Absolutely.
Right?
And that's another sign of the decline of Western society. Absolutely. Like in Canada, it's almost, you get more trouble for trying to defend yourself than the guy who actually attacked you. And
perfect example
of that. Ridiculous.
Do you remember that guy in Red Deer that got assaulted? Like, the house got broken into 4 times by the same drug addict, and then the last time the drug addict came in with a baseball bat, and the renter at the time was with his family. He grabbed a shotgun that time and said, "Back off, get out of here." And the drug addict came in and hit him several times with the baseball bat, broke his collarbone, his a couple other bones in his body before the homeowner, the renter, shot the shotgun and killed the guy. And then the homeowner got arrested, even though he was actually assaulted, right? And this was the 4th time that this happened. And then the RCMP knew the guy, but he still got charged with manslaughter and got lost the use of firearms because he was defending himself.
And that's Canada, though. Canada doesn't like you using a tool to defend yourself at all.
Yeah.
And well, it's a absolute flaw in the Canada justice system, which isn't really a justice system, it seems like.
Yeah.
So what do you think could help? Like what do we do? Like from your guys' point of view, right?
Empower people to protect themselves. Empower them. I mean, yeah, you're
protecting yourself. How do like? How do I say this right? I agree with you, Rob, 100%. I think the right to self-defense is a God-given right. Like, absolutely. There is no way you should be forced by law to be a victim. There's no way. That doesn't make any sense at all. But what I like in the documentary when they talk about Alberta with the rehabilitation centers over giving them free drugs. Absolutely. Help them, enable them. Like, right? Like, I can't understand how people are so lost that when you read some of the comments on these videos and that they're bashing the Alberta government for doing this, saying that they're not helping them. When how is feeding an addiction helping? What do you guys see as like a solution to some of this problem?
It's because well, I think things have become way too politically factionalized. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah.
So it's just like they see one side doing it, and they're like, "No, that can't be right. That's not what they tell me. You know what's going on, right?" So you got the blinders on for the flaws of your own side, right? So you see, but whatever the other side does is just objectively wrong, no matter what it is, even if it's the right thing to do. Because the biggest thing for me that I've learned through dealing with addictions is you have to have community support for it, or else you're going to fail.
Yeah, no, that's so true.
And that is the big thing that they miss.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct, Eric.
You don't need just a counselor. You don't need somebody to give you free drugs. No, you need a support group of like your family, whoever, like fellow addicts that want to get clean, right? And you're all doing the same thing. Like I'll admit, I had a family member that was dealing with alcohol addiction. And the best way, so they went to rehab for it, and they had their 12-step program, what have you, and then you have to reach certain milestones at a certain amount of time. You're constantly working with other addicts and stuff like that, trying to deal with the stuff. And not only that, but you're going out and doing you're doing jobs, and you're doing working with the community, doing volunteer work, right? Building better habits. So it was a long process, but at the end of the day, you're stronger for it, because not only are you networking and building a support group with other addicts that know who've going through the same thing, and then you got a support, or like an overarching support group from working with the families and counselors and everything like that to help them with that, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, and you can't just say give them drugs and then talk to a counselor. That doesn't work.
Well, Eric, one thing you said at the very start that I think you hit the nail with the hammer there was what my party says or what my views are. People are so right now, it's the only time in history that I know this has happened where we are so dead in line with a party or a political ideology, whether it's liberalism or conservative. It's like they're so scared to not fit in that if the liberal side says we need to give them safe supply drugs, even if you know it's wrong, you will back that because you don't want to be left out.
Tribalism. Everybody's so connected through the internet. It's so disconnected because they're not with people.
What was that gentleman, the MP? What I was pleasantly surprised. I can't remember his name. He was a Liberal MP that actually voted against party lines. That
was the guy from Newfoundland who went against.
Because
his people they're freezing. The people in Newfoundland can't afford to heat their homes.
And then you can see with some of the other policies that they just the exemption for the tax that just came out for that, right? in response because it's
but nothing for Western Canada.
No, but it's because it was all political. It's nothing to do with helping people out. It's all about because they were losing seats and votes. That's what it comes down to, and that's the big problem with our political system.
We're going in the wrong direction, but I agree with you. And I also saw the news article with one of the ministers of the energy who said that because they had more Liberal seats in Western Canada or in Eastern Canada, maybe the West should think about voting Liberal. And the reporter's like, are you saying that the Albertans and Saskatchewan people are going to have to pay higher prices because they didn't vote Liberal? And she just clammed right up. Anyways, back to what we're talking about.
Sorry. But that is an example of how it was a surprise when somebody, because usually we have to do what's best, right?
He's getting off topic, but he's on the topic at the same time. Like a lot of this stuff, a lot of the solutions that they're coming up with for this drug addiction problem, they look good on the surface and get some votes. They're not actual solutions that are hard to do, like long-term, actually going to fix the problem. But they don't look good on the surface, and that is a lot of the problem. I think politicians are just trying to get to the next vote. They're not thinking of the good of their citizens, which they should be. And that I think he's 100% on point with that. Yeah. It's political.
And this is what's been going on since even before I was born. That we started seeing a little bit of that, and it's just. And the other thing is what we can do, like how this tying back into what we said previously, like what we can do because we all feel really powerless. I'm like, well, how can we do to help? And I'm like, well, it's a systemic problem that we have. It's not a, what was it? I would say like outside influences and stuff like that. Like, kind of, sort of, but the problem we're really having, and the solution is, well, it's a systemic problem, and we need to pay attention to. And we haven't been paying attention for several decades. And now we are. Now we're starting to. I mean, better late than never. But we've kind of forgotten our responsibility when it comes to that.
Yeah, it also starts in the family too. Like a lot of these people that get addicted to drugs, how close are their families? You know what I mean?
That's a good one too, right?
Like I think some of them.
That's the first.
I think some of the families, I think they feel partially to blame. Like going through the documentary where kids or younger adults, where they start off as these kids who got hooked on OxyContin because they got a sports injury. The parents are the ones that took them to the hospital. The doctors prescribed it, and now boom, now they're hooked on a hard opioid. And these parents feel, I did this to them. I need to support them. I need to help them. I'm going to look a blind eye when they steal from me and stuff like that.
The other part of that is, why are the doctors prescribing hard drugs for minor injuries?
That's going down. That would go down another rabbit hole.
Of course, another rabbit hole.
Like that's another rabbit hole where they're just like, well, we're told to just write a blank check for this because insert reason here.
It's also been proven that the medical
money.
Yeah, absolutely. The medical industry caused the opioid crisis.
Oh, absolutely. Was it Prudhomme? Was it Prudhomme?
Yeah,
the one that made OxyContin.
I think it's Prudhomme.
Yeah, Trudeau there.
Like that,
and they're being sued from not only Canada and the United States, but other countries too, because they went into hospitals and offered huge kickbacks to prescribe OxyContin, and they said it was safe. They said you're not able to get addicted to it. It's not a high enough dose. But they had the data show that they were wrong, but they just refused to release that.
And I never heard the results of that lawsuit that was filed against them.
I think it's still going on, if I'm not mistaken. It might be over. I don't know.
The fact that it wasn't open and shut.
Man, there's so many lawsuits going on. It's hard to keep them.
Fair enough.
I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot of lawsuits.
But crazy how many of them are against pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
No.
Come on.
Yeah. I kind of smiled and was a little happy when I saw that. What was it? Pfizer's stock just tanked.
Good.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, you reap what you sow. You try to cheat the system. But anyway.
What about the manipulation that the government and the media is using, like the NLP, the neuro-linguistic program they're using, and the words they choose to use, like safe supply.
Yeah. That's
right.
I can't stand any sort of manipulation like that. Any sort of emotional or mental manipulation like that. Yeah. No. The people deserve truth. So speak your words plainly.
Until I watched that documentary, I thought
hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah, I thought that was is it hydroxychloroquine?
Is it hydroxychloroquine?
Hydrocodone?
No.
Or
are we all getting it wrong?
Hydromorphone.
What am I thinking?
Hydromorphone.
Anyway.
I thought it was lower than even Oxycontin because I thought it was a way to bring people down. After watching the documentary and then researching, it's actually higher.
Yeah, it's
methadone.
Methadone is the one that's lower. That's the one that they usually give out for.
Yeah, that's one the paramedics give out, and that's where I got mixed up because I was like, okay, this free drug. I'm thinking it's going to be the lower one, and it's not. No. It's actually more addictive and higher than Oxycontin.
Yeah,
and they're handing it out like Skittles.
Yeah, why wouldn't you give out the lower doses to like sure, wean people off of it so they don't have those hard crashes, right? That makes perfect sense. Like any sort of habit you have, for most people it's easier to wean off. Like you trail off than it is to just hard cut it, right?
Cold turkey, right?
Yeah. And especially with like hard drugs like fentanyl or heroin, those withdrawal symptoms can be deadly. So it makes sense to wean them off. But you give them something that's stronger than what they're addicted to. Like, how does that
doesn't make sense?
None. None at all. And like, at what point do we hold like the federal government or the provincial governments liable for that kind of shit? You know what I mean?
Yeah, agreed. And you know what? Like, I don't even know what to say. Like, I get so upset because they're pushing this shit, and the guys that are getting it for free are taking it and selling it on the side so they can buy the dirty stuff because it has the longer high, and it's hitting into high schools.
Selling it right outside of the pharmacy that they got the free stuff from.
Oh, I know.
Right?
The big ones for me is when they're selling it to kids.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Eric. Like it's ending up in our schools, and it looks like a Tylenol because it's made from the sort of pharmaceutical company. You know, when I was a kid, drugs looked like drugs. You had to get it all crushed up in a baggie, and you could tell the guys that had them because they looked like it. They didn't look like a Tylenol.
But the other part of that is how can they justify handcuffing the cops to keep them from actually doing something about the problem?
No, agreed.
You know what I mean?
And that's what I was saying. Like when I think about those guys' mental health, like I would hate to be a police officer right now.
100%. The fact that you join the police force to help people and you're not allowed to because your higher ups say no go.
Well, that, and then you have all the bad publicity and stuff like that, saying, that was worked up with that, and then people just, and much like the military, they just quit, right? So you lose all that experience because all the people that want to do good, they're willing to put up with some of the flack that you get. They're just like, no, it's not worth it anymore.
But I mean, if they were empowered to actually do their jobs and help and make a difference, which is most of them sign up to do that. If you actually give them that power to make a difference, you would see so much higher retention rates, military wise or police wise. You know what I mean? But the fact that they're not allowed to, it definitely disillusions a lot of people.
Well, you're crushing them. You're crushing their soul. Like, they get the people that look at them like, why aren't you fixing the problem? And then their hands are tied. And if they do try to do something, then there's protests out there to defund the police or, or you get caught on camera, which is all cut and edited to show them at their worst.
And that's where it comes back to political.
Yeah, but then their leadership doesn't even have their back, and that's got to be the hardest part on them. You know, they get thrown to the wolves because they looked bad on social media.
But again, what happens to high-level police and high-level military? They go political careers, so they don't want to ruin that. So in the end, it comes down to politics, really, which is absolutely ridiculous.
And you're sacrificing these people on these people's credibility on the altar of politics, and we're going to see a reckoning with that. If we're not seeing it now, with doctors and nurses and family doctors and stuff like that, because they're like, with all these, lawsuits and stuff like that, and all these studies coming out that are kind of damning a lot of, things that have happened in the past couple of years, saying, contradicting what was said quite a bit, people are going to not trust doctors and nurses anymore. And and a lot of them were just doing because the reason why they were given that information is because they were misled as well, because they weren't fed all of the information. Some of them, I would say some of the higher ups, but most of the people that are on the ground, the doctors and nurses that actually want to help people, were told a lot of this, like, nope, this is perfectly fine. This is perfectly fine. Just give it out, right?
Some of that is willful ignorance too, though. They wanted to keep their jobs. True. They weren't willing to sacrifice their jobs and their livelihoods.
And there was a lot of coercion as well, right?
So I mean, you at the same time, do you really want somebody that's that morally weak in those positions? Because they could just be bought and sold either way,
right? And that's a difficult thing, but that goes into more of the lack of morality with our society and the decline and everything like that.
But that's kind of what I was trying to drag out of you guys. That's where it's the mental health of our whole society. Like, again, we go back to, everybody focuses on, like, we'll go back to the documentary, the mental health of the people living on the streets, but they never talk about the whole morality and the mental health of our entire country. We're all affected by it. We've all gone through these last few years and just been lied to. We've been pushed down. We've been pissed on. We've been all kinds of things from both sides, right? And nobody knows which way's up, what's right, what's wrong, because we're lied to everywhere.
It's the boiling.
So you know what,
they try to frog theory.
Yeah, absolutely. And so they're just trying to grab onto whatever fad they can so they can be on the winning side. And right now, the people that are supporting the safe supply stuff, they're not helping anybody. They're actually making the problem worse, trying to make themselves feel better.
Yeah. And I think that's a symptom. I honestly think that's a symptom of social media. People doing whatever it takes to get the likes and the popularity. Yeah. So they'll jump on whatever fad is popular at the time to get those likes.
Or you get people that are super... my concern is, like, people that just get super nihilistic, which is just... I mean, before I switched over and got distracted with my job, right? I was going down that rabbit hole pretty badly, and it's like you want to do the right thing. You know what the right thing to do is, right? And, you do your due diligence, but no matter what, it's people are bombarded, like, who are not as well informed as you, just constantly beating you down, and then at the end of the day, you're like, you just say, "Fuck it, let it all burn."
And I mean, honestly, that's a valid strategy because you can only take care of the people, yourself and the people closest to you. You can't fix the entire world's problems on your own way things are. But
the media tries to put the entire world's problems on everybody's shoulders. Yeah. Right?
The media.
Just like, think about it. When you've got Oprah and The Rock sitting on camera demanding that people donate to help save Maui, but the two of their combined wealth could have rebuilt the island in a week.
Yeah. Wow. And the fact that we're buying a property as well.
But the people who are barely,
let's not talk about that.
Scraping by paycheck to paycheck, they're the ones that need to donate the money. Like, come on. Yeah. Like that's how sad we become as a society. Yeah. Where the super rich are demanding the ones barely making it give money, and then they do because they want to say, I did what he said. I'm on that guy's. Yeah.
That nicety versus kindness.
It's like the whole entire. It's like the UNICEF scam on a broader scale, right? Yeah. We're like, don't worry, we'll it's like, don't you want to help people? It's like, but then only like 13% of the money that I give you actually goes to the person, to the cause. Like, no, don't talk about that.
And
Don't mention that.
Speaking on that Maui situation, that was the exact situation that happened. The money that was supposed to go in that Maui fund ended up going to all the CEOs and higher ups in that fund.
Oh my god! Yeah, and them shutting and like, so and then the Maui government shutting down people trying to help each other out. Like people get like from the other islands hauling supplies in on boats, and then they're getting turned away by the police. Like what the fuck? Yeah, the people just want to know what's going on and want to help out, right?
Dude, so the same thing happened in.
Yeah, how do you not have that nihilistic outlook on stuff when that kind of thing is happening?
I know, like the same thing happened in BC in these last forest fires. People were trying to bring feed out to the horses that were trapped in the fire zone, and the cops stopped them because they were told they had to. And they're like, no, we'll be in and out. Like the fire's not here yet. Just let us go get these horses. You know, there's like millions of dollars worth of animals there. And they're like, no, we will not let you do this. It's like, what is going on?
So at what point do people turn on the authority figures? Like it's coming to that point. It's getting to that flashpoint. And it's
true. And you know what, this is leading me into my next question. Like how do we help people with how they feel, like their outlook on life, when we have like such a narcissistic government? Like, you know, I sometimes I sit there and I think if I was old JT, like, man, I couldn't sleep at night. Like everything you're doing is falling apart. But then you think about it, like, does he even think that?
Doesn't.
Because you do.
No.
I get the whole acronym or the whole thing of like quicksand. You know, you do one thing and you keep, until you're in over your head because you just keep trying to struggle and you keep getting deeper into it. But this isn't hidden stuff. Like this is open. Like you can see your country is dying and people can't eat.
If you're using your logical mind, you would see that and you would change direction or at least try something different. But the fact that things keep pushing forward the way they are and the same thing keeps happening over and over, how do you not start to think that, okay, maybe this is meant to happen? You know what I mean? Maybe this is the end goal.
Maybe it's deliberate just to sabotage everything. Maybe.
Exactly.
But who knows, right?
And
mind you, it's gotten to the point.
Let's get into a rabbit hole there too. But I mean, like, what, 2 times or 3 times a pattern, and it just keeps happening and happening and happening. Yeah, it's starting to look like a pattern.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And most of it ends up being follow the money.
Yep. Oh man, look at last week. Last week was fucking really interesting, but again, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole just yet. Maybe later.
Oh, they'll be playing more time because right now this is like for everybody who's listening outside of Canada. This is huge here right now. It's our country just seems to be imploding. We got higher than ever taxes. We got higher than ever interest rates. We got higher than ever heating costs. And we literally get told from our government that it's great. We've never seen such success in our country.
AAA credit rating.
Everybody here is doing so great, but yet nobody's doing great.
Yeah.
We've got multimillionaires threatening our tax agencies because the taxes have gone up and they have to pay more and they've never had to pay that before. Like it's not just affecting the low income, it's affecting everybody.
Well, did you see the statistic that we're actually in a worse depression than the 30s?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I did, because when they did the money rate, oh man, I can't speak right now. The comparison with our dollars, if you were to take what our money's worth now and put to the 30s, people actually had more, like the poor and down and outers were making more than what we're trying to live off now.
Yeah. Absolutely ridiculous. But people just have to keep going on. They have to. Because, I mean, what else are you supposed
of course.
to do?
You can't, right? You can't just lay down and die. That's not feasible. But
But hey, history repeating itself. We're getting ready for World War III now.
Well, and that's yeah. And you like again another rabbit hole, but just like it's obvious. Like, how about let's not instigate things, and then all of a sudden people are in power. Like, you know what? Let's do the exact opposite of the smart thing. So it's like, no, it's like we actually want to make things worse, and you're like, no.
But then
it's just like
it comes down to money again.
It definitely does. But you've got to think in the early 2000s, they're like, man, we're getting into a depression. Like, what do we got to do? How do we pull ourselves out? Oh, lo and behold,
start a war.
And
start another war.
People then dumped money into defense. They dumped money into the countries because they loved it. Man, you had Toby Keith singing songs about the states. You had, everybody had a flag on their front porch. But now, so trying it again, that's not this generation.
Everybody's wise to it now because of COVID.
Yeah.
COVID brought everybody's attention to, oh shit, media's lying, politicians are lying, everybody's just trying to get rich off of our backs.
Well, and we had nothing to do for 2 years, so people were able to get into the internet and dig around. Mm-hmm. I can find news articles from France. I can find news articles from Russia, and I can start putting it together. It's the same story written 4 different ways. So you got to try to find the truth in the middle.
Why did Canada ban news on Facebook and Instagram? Crazy how that connected up, huh?
Yeah.
Right? Free speech is gone and everything.
All of a sudden the conspiracy theorists are starting to make a little bit more sense.
Right? It's a rough one, man. It's I don't like it.
But
gotta tell you,
at least we are open to it, and the fact that we can kind of see the big picture in a sense, because we're not closed off to, okay, media is telling the truth, whatever the media says goes.
Yeah.
People like us, our vision is opened up to the bigger picture, which both helps and hurts us.
Well, it's most because the problem is most people wanted to I don't care. I don't want to listen to what's going on in the news because the news is always bad stuff. I just want to pay attention with my life, right? Because my life is more important than whatever the hell's going on. But then again, you're closing off you're putting the blinders on and not paying attention to the bigger problems, right? Yeah. But with like the inflation and everything else that's going on and all these problems, like with the crime and the addiction
starting to bring those
crisis, right? Yeah, and
Eric,
then you can't.
I want to kind of edit what you said there. You're not wrong, but what happened? Let's just take like the 80s and 90s. Everybody did think of their own lives, their little world, right? You're in your hometown, you took care of that, and people were happy. People worked hard because they just took care of themselves and their circle. And then came the 2000s when the internet got really big and we started thinking about the entire world.
Right.
But then everything just starts falling apart. Like you said, everything starts getting negative on the news. But we didn't revert back to just taking care of ourselves. What we reverted to was social media. This instant gratification. Look at these amazing lives, these beautiful people, and everything goes right for them. But half of them are so depressed and they end up taking their own lives because they have to live such a fake world to get people to like them. But the normal person doesn't know that. They're just following them because they don't want, like you said, they don't want to see the world for what it is because it's mean and it's nasty. So instead of just taking care of their own little circle, they just go on their device and they're off in la la land.
It's a drug in itself.
Yeah,
it is.
And that's
just fry them dopamine receptors. Just get that dopamine hit, the immediate dopamine hit.
That's a lot of it. Like people don't know how to cope nowadays, not healthily. They don't.
Right.
They either cope with their device or they cope with drugs or cope with some kind of substance that makes them not feel.
Because what Eric brought up earlier, they've lost their community. We have, and COVID did it the best. We became terrified of our neighbors. We became terrified of public because they could get you sick and you're going to die instantly if you get sick. And then lo and behold, the world didn't end and we're not all dead. So
crazy.
But they still have those reservations that they don't want to be around lots of people. Like you see that person wearing their mask in their car alone. and it still makes me shake my head. Fine, that's what they want to do. Like, all power to you, but don't get upset if I shake my head at you, because I don't understand what you're that afraid of. Yeah. Like, how are you that afraid of life?
Yeah, and that's consequences of actions. Fine.
Yep.
And do whatever you want, but be prepared to suffer those consequences. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm all for that. Like, yeah, make all the choices you want, but be prepared to suffer the consequences of those actions. And that's the thing. People don't want to suffer those consequences anymore. They want to push the blame down the road. Oh, it's this person's fault. Oh, it's that party's fault.
Yeah.
And no.
Then that goes down the rabbit hole of personal responsibility,
which is almost non-existent nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Personal responsibility. It's true.
What is that? It's almost non-existent nowadays.
Well, again, that's another rabbit hole where, like, yeah, if you're the guy that admits to his mistakes and tries to rectify your mistakes, right? Anyway,
Eric, word of the day.
Rabbit hole.
Rabbit hole.
I even called myself out for it. I still went for it. You know.
All right, guys. You know what?
Anyway,
it's a real thing.
Moving on.
I mean, every rabbit hole leads to another one, and if you start seeing,
and it seems
so many of them,
right. That's what I was just gonna say. It seems like right now there are so many freaking rabbit holes. Like conspiracy theories are coming true. So were they so much a conspiracy, or were they just a theory?
It's only a conspiracy theory until it's proven true, right? That's a fact.
Well, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Right.
CIA killed JFK. Real.
Well, we know they covered up aliens.
It was a weird month. September was weird for that.
It was so weird.
It's just like
I don't know what they're really trying.
That looks like paper mache. Like, what the fuck are you on?
Oh, you're talking about the ones in Mexico? Yeah.
Yeah.
They're about as anatomically correct as a Ken doll. But anyways, I want to thank you guys for coming on the show, and it's great. It's the way we talk. It's like just having around the table, a couple drinks, buddies talking. It's good.
Yeah.
I hope our listeners are getting as much out of this as we are. So, you guys stay awesome. Keep stick on the ice. Eric, keep your eyes open and watch out for those rabbit holes. Alrighty, crew, that's a wrap up to another thought-provoking episode of Viking Psychology. I'm going to reach out to Aaron Gunn himself and see if he's willing to join us for a follow-up episode on the mental health. And remember, these issues are everywhere and they affect everyone. So thanks again to our incredible guests, Eric and Rob, for sharing their wisdom with us. And stay prepared, stay curious, and always keep questioning everything. Until next time.